next section is going to focus on practical applications of technology to optimize store operations. And I use store operations quite loosely. It's not necessarily just about labor, but about how you kind of run a store and how you make it work. So who doesn't love starting with a Gartner report? So this is a Gartner hype cycle for retail technology. And if you've not seen a hype cycle before, effectively it shows the journey that technologies go through, right? So from the beginning, an innovation comes, people get really, really excited about it and think it's going to be the best thing ever, like RFID back in the day, actually. It was massively overinflated in terms of people being excited about it. Smart shelves, contextualized real-time pricing's right up at this point. Edge computing, people are excited about. And then as they start using them, people realize that it doesn't quite do what they want. Really good salespeople have sold you on a dream, and you fall down into this trough of disillusionment. But the great thing is then, what happens is the businesses then take that feedback and it climbs its way out on the slope of enlightenment, and eventually it plateaus. So what I wanted to do today was pick 5 of these topics that I think will just be really, really normal in 2043. And what I'm going to do for each of them is look at what the vision might be of 2043, and then give an idea of, well, we're not going to do that today, but what could you do tomorrow? I should probably talk about what they are. So one of them's going to be computer vision, the other one's going to be about the proliferation of IoT, Internet of Things devices, augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. We'll talk about workforce analytics, because I love it. I might be a bit biased, but there we are. And then we'll talk about algorithmic retailing, and each of those will have a section. So computer vision, what would that be like in 2043? Well, this might be what it looks like. So at the moment, we know Amazon Go has been pushing the bar, but you might have complete visibility of the store. So you might be in a position whereby every square inch, every square centimetre of the store is covered. And imagine the possibilities if you could do that. Now this is genuinely possible today. This is from a company that I used to work for, where we used to put in sensors. And actually we've worked with most of the big multiples in the UK, and we've covered entire hypermarkets like this. And what this is doing is it's tracking at centimetre level precision, anonymously, every individual. So every dot is a human, and you can track the end-to-end journey across the whole store. Now that actually is quite basic versus what will be possible in 2043, because at the moment, computer vision can do way more than that. You can do facial recognition, you can do emotions identification, you can determine when someone's picking something off a shelf. So when we get to a point where you get past the barrier of privacy, which is the main reason data is this way, is because this is anonymized data. There is nothing that leaves the camera other than an XY coordinate. But if and when we get over that privacy barrier, which may well be driven by the East, it's a different environment there. Imagine the possibilities if you could track emotions of a shopper at shelf. Imagine if you could track interaction. Imagine if you could pick up any health and safety risk by seeing a spillage on the cameras before they're there. So from an operational standpoint, we're really excited about the options there. So complete visibility of stores might be what happens in 2043. That comes with advanced commercial and operational benefits. So these are also real things. So this is from a company called Sunrise Technologies. They have a partnership with Microsoft. This is from 4 years ago. And they're already using this mega sensor you see here, which is a combination of all the technology you could ever want. It's got Bluetooth tracking, it's got Wi-Fi tracking, it's got 8 different cameras. But some of the use cases they're doing, I think, will be normal in 2043. So they're using computer vision to track out of stocks and out of reaches for those people that can't reach far back. They're using it to look at warehouse capacity. They're looking to look at spillages in the store. They're using asset protection, so they can create a skeleton. I'm sorry, the fidelity of these images is terrible, but it was taken on my phone quite a long time ago. They can create a skeleton of a human, and they can identify a shrink activity where someone says, I'm going to make it look like I'm scanning this item through, but actually put my thumb over the barcode, scan it through like that. And what they do is they combine that data with the sales data to say, you're stealing from our till. So it could be a point where that type of benefit is coming. And maybe, this is a business called Beta, maybe retailers won't sell products. Maybe retailers will sell the data about the products. So Beta is not a good example of that because they did fail. However, they set up a business whereby if you were an online store and you didn't have a physical presence, you could sell the product in their stores. But what they did is they peppered the stores with analytics and cameras, and they sold the data back to the people to let them know what percentage of people were interested in your product, how long did they spend, how long did they look at it, what the emotions, etc. So maybe in the future, retail revenue won't just come from product sales. However, all of that is lovely, theoretical, future, but retail is low margin, and putting cameras in all your stores is very expensive. So what could you do now? Well, what we recommend and what we talk to people about is leveraging existing video sources. So one of the easiest ways to do it, this is an example of genuine facial recognition using stock IP cameras that are already in lots of stores. I think what we always talk about is retailers always assume that because the technology can do something, you need everything. I've spoken to lots of retailers in my career about computer vision and the benefits, and they go, can it do this? Yes, it can. Okay, we want that. Yeah, but the cost is you have to then have cameras everywhere. Start with what you've got. Start with existing video sources. That can be that. It could be using a mobile phone. And then find an ROI-driven use case. So this is an example we did with the UK grocer where we identified that the biggest cost in their store was scanning for gaps on shelves. They would send people out and they would look, there's a gap here, there's a gap there, I need to replenish that, I need to replenish this and replenish that. And we said, well, humans aren't good for that, right? And in a bigger store, you might use a robot. But in this store, they've got over 2,000 stores. There's no way they're going to put robots in 2,000 stores. So what's everyone got? A mobile phone. So rapidly, within 5 days, we built for them a demo using real working technology based on Microsoft as to how you could use a mobile phone to scan. And in this case, it's effectively looking for missing products. It uses a combination of computer vision and optical character recognition to read the word cornflakes and 720 grams, and it looks for it on the shelf. But basically, that's tipping on its head, right? So everyone wants the perfect solution, but what's the one you can do tomorrow? So the second bit of recommendation is focus on the use case that will give you the highest ROI, because that's just money, right? A pound saved is a pound saved. A pound gain gives you 2%, 3%, 4% back in retail. And then the last bit is then what's the fastest and cheapest way from A to B? So data scientists always love getting into really detailed models. We like to use the simplest route where we can, and this is an example of anomaly detection. Anomaly detection, if you've not seen it before or used it before, just the best thing ever. Anomaly detection effectively enables you to feed a load of data into an algorithm saying, this is what normal looks like. You just give it loads and loads of data and say, that is normal data. And then when something abnormal happens, like this golf cart, it goes, oh no, that's not normal. For retail, that is huge value, right? Because if you spend all your time training the model for every eventuality, it's huge, huge amounts of money. This model, and I'll give you an example later on of how it can be used, could be the cheapest way to get from A to B. So I guess those are my recommendations on that front. IoT. Yeah, I'm right on time. IoT, 2043, what might it look like? So Internet of Things devices. There is a stat which is quite shocking, which is that Statista would say that by 2030, so not even 2043, there will be 50 billion IoT devices worldwide. That doesn't include cameras. That just includes anything that's connected to the internet across the board. If you imagine the amount of data that comes out of that, that's available, and my view is that retailers, when we get to this situation where data is being picked up by all of these things, your competitive advantage will come from how you use the data, not what data you collect, because everyone will be able to collect the same or hit proliferation. I laughed when I saw this online, because this is, I did exactly this when Amazon Go first came out. You look at the ceiling and you try and work out what is it. Very closely guarded secret. So we know there's lots of cameras, we know there are scales, don't know what that is, don't know what that is, don't know what this is, don't know what that is. But one thing I will tell you is it was really expensive to do. So when they set up Amazon Go, it cost them £1 million to get just the glass right on the front of the door, or front of the window, because the light coming in at different refractions just made none of these systems work. And I think it's interesting as well, because if you look at Amazon Go, everyone was scared about it. Every UK retailer has looked at it. They've all built their own versions, but no one's really rolled that out at scale yet. So this is an example of something, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the future, all stores will be autonomous and it will be that. I don't think so. I think 2043, petrol stations that need to be open 24 hours, maybe some of those. High footfall areas, but beyond that, we won't see a huge amount. But what there will be is lots more data. In order to use that data, what retailers will need, and they're not at that journey yet, that's still in this trough of disillusionment, I think, is edge compute. So it's a compute processor, like a very big computer effectively in each store that can work out what data it wants to collect. Edge compute enables you to take loads of different data inputs, vibration data, temperature data, sound data, computer vision, EPOS data, combine it into one place, work out what it's going to keep, anonymize whatever data it needs to, and then send it up into the cloud, which helps you with things like stoppages in factories. It helps you with quality control, cold chain checks, stock tracking, theft prevention, a whole host of opportunities. But truthfully, when we're retailers and you're struggling to get money signed off for a new floor, how do you get money signed off for an edge compute system? So we'll come to some more practical examples. So what can you do with IoT in store now? Well, one of the new things that we saw in New York this year, I think, is really exciting and may well revolutionize retail. So I guess these 3 bits of advice are around individual parts of IoT. Rather than the whole ecosystem, don't go for everything. Don't go for end-to-end temperature checks everywhere. This is genuinely exciting in terms of unique identifier. So if you know Amazon Go, you walk into Amazon Go store, and to start with, you had to be signed up, and you would have to then use your signed up card to go in, which was a barrier to entry. Then they changed it so you just dip any credit card and you walk in. Now you register your credit card to your handprint once, and your handprint is the only ID Amazon ever needs. So anywhere, you just walk in, scan your hand, take what you want, walk out. I think this is a really exciting thing for the future. So we've already seen the proliferation of thumbprints. It's been accepted by the public. It's there on most mobile phones. You can use a thumbprint to work out. If you connected the thumbprint on a mobile phone to the handprint in store, you've overcome challenges on omnichannel in terms of linking up and having a single view of customer. So I think handprint is an exciting one. I think we'll see a lot more of it. It's been around in China for ages. I've seen it in China on vending machines as a handprint that you actually touch. The interesting thing about this handprint is what Charlie's doing there, and he'll talk about it a bit later. He doesn't even have to touch the hand sensor. So it's COVID sensitive as well. It's just scanning his hand. It doesn't even have to have physical touch. So it's quite interesting, quite amazing. You can see it in New York if you ever want to see it. Then pick a use case. So one of the ones that's really good at paying for itself is predictive maintenance. So Starbucks are amazing at using predictive maintenance through their Deep Brew algorithms. They put temperature sensors, they put vibration sensors into their coffee machines because that was one of the biggest causes of outages for them as a business. But this is an example of something that we did with a major FMCG where the challenge for them was the production line going down. And this uses the anomaly detection model that we just looked at earlier. So all we did was fed it a load of data saying, normal looks like these bottles moving along, abnormal looks like that. And immediately what happens then when the bottle tips over, and when this employee comes along, you get a really big spike, is you get a score that tells you likely something has gone wrong. And often, something being abnormal is enough. In my view, in retail, where this would apply really well, would be, let's say you've got CCTV of your shelves, you train it what a normal, fully stocked shelf looks like. You just plow in, you know that the shelves get restocked every day at 5 o'clock. So you just take the data from 5 o'clock till 6 o'clock every day and plow that into a model. It learns that that's what normal roughly looks like. Then you let it tell you when abnormal is. And what you'll see over the day will be that score, and by the way, this is hypothesis, because it's something we want to start looking into, will start dropping down and down and down and down, telling you that it might need to be replenished. But if suddenly in came customers and they emptied the entire shelf, you'd see a complete drop to the bottom. And I think when we speak to retailers about this, the questions you get are, well, can you identify which products are out of stock? No, you can't, not with that model. But at the moment, you have nothing, and this gets you to 50% of the challenge. So that anomaly detection, I think, is a really interesting one to look into. And then, last but not least, I don't know what the use cases are in retail, but this is something we did with Heathrow Airport. So I don't know if you've ever kept yourself up at night wondering how anyone detects illegal wildlife being trafficked within a suitcase. We certainly didn't before we did this project. But effectively, what was needed was to combine together various different types of scanning to get to this level of detail. So my view would be maybe a technology like this might be useful in terms of tracking what's in the depths of a pallet, tracking a lorry as it comes in, but who knows. Third topic, VR, AR, and MR. So virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality, and we'll talk about all three. So 2043, will Minority Report come true? So this is an example of augmented reality. Walking through your environment is surrounded by other digital aspects that can influence your day. Will we have that blend? We've seen retailers try this, but never in real detail, and usually just sort of games and fun things on your phone. So One Stop did it, where they did like a follow the Christmas elf around your store. But maybe we'll get to a point whereby if Apple's glasses really pick off, that people are genuinely starting to have this augmented reality environment. Or does the metaverse take off? if you haven't seen Ready Player One, I would really recommend it. It's a really good futuristic view of what living in a metaverse-style environment might be. But potentially, we abandon this planet and go into a virtual planet and live there, like Half-Life was, or whatever the old, whatever that other game was called, where you live in the environment. Perhaps the metaverse will catch up, but I think, likewise, we're not ready yet for the metaverse. Like when we spoke to Clinique about how they were using the metaverse, they went, yeah, it's brilliant. You know what we can do? We can have, when people put on Clinique eyewear in the metaverse, it can put sparks coming out of their eyes. And I said, why? There was no answer. So I think we're still finding that. On the flip side, we saw the Walmart approach being, well, we'll put a big store in that looks like a Walmart. Likewise, one too much imagination, one maybe not quite enough imagination. I think there's a middle ground. But we will catch up. I don't know. I'm keeping a close eye on the metaverse. I really genuinely don't know whether life will be about this hybrid world or people retreating. I really hope it isn't that, personally. But maybe I'm old-fashioned. And then there's this, which is if you believe... Oh, that is loud. If you believe in the HoloLens story, which has also had a bumped reception, is that maybe it's about this mixed reality, whereby you use the lens, but what's created here interacts with your environment. So you can use your hands, you can engage and change the environment. We know in a technical space that's really, really relevant, but maybe in the future you walk into your retail store and to come to your problem about the spoons, not that spoons is a great example, but maybe you walk into a virtual spoon drawer and there's a million spoons in front of you, you can look at them and pick them up with your fingers like that and compare them across the board. So maybe that is the future of how you do an endless aisle with your virtual reality goggles on. So, all exciting futuristic things, but what can you do now? Well, the first point of call is obviously QR codes, right? It's the easiest way to kind of replicate what virtual reality does on a low budget. But I guess our recommendation is this. This was a store we saw in New York, and if you don't maintain them, then you get a 404 not found. And I think we talked earlier a bit about how easy it is to be alienated by a store experience. Well, it's really alienating if there's a QR code and it doesn't do anything. And then the second thing not to do is this. This is Charlie, who will be coming on next. And we saw this QR code on the outside of this luxury fashion store, and we were really excited to scan it. And then we were so disappointed when that's genuinely all it did. So I guess our point is, I think QR codes are genuinely massively underutilized. I think they are hard to maintain. It does add a whole new code base of stuff that you need to work on. But genuinely, it's an easy way for anyone to integrate with your products and to get more information. I think there's quite a lot more that can be done with them. Then augmented reality. Here's some great examples. This is the Lego store here. A really fun kind of example of how you might use augmented reality. Effectively, when you hold the box up to this camera, it shows you what the product will look like once it's built, once you've done all your hard work. And I think for kids, that was a really fun thing, a really great way to engage them in there. It doesn't really serve any particular purpose, but it's fun and engaging. And you can do the same thing on a mobile. This, to me, is the more exciting thing, right? So I've always thought for quite a number of years that Majestic Wine is a great example of a store that's really good at doing shelf talkers. You walk in, you see amazing facts about wines and testimonials, but most retailers are rubbish. And genuinely, there's not enough space, or they're out of date. This is a great example we saw, and I'll try and find the name of the company. It's a French business that's looking at how you would augment, using your mobile phone, the sale of a candle. And you can scroll through photos of the candle, reviews. You can do virtual. I'm not sure how you do a virtual try-on of a candle. Look at that one. I should have challenged them on that day. That really would be a challenge. If they could do that, would be amazing. But a full description. And I think that's really going to be quite an exciting one that comes across the board. Number 4, workforce analytics, my favourite. This is the most exciting thing I saw at the whole of NRF this year in January. So this is the usage. Well, I guess a question, right? So there's a question at the moment about labour costs are going up. It's expensive to run a store. So you kind of have two choices. Do you automate or do you augment? And personally, I believe augmentation is really important. But this is an example of automation. I mean, when was the last time you went into a fast food store and there wasn't a kiosk like that? That went overnight from there being no kiosks in store to there being everywhere, and now almost you expect it. However, they're really impersonal and they're not very fun, right? So what they've done here, this is a deep fake of a woman. She is a genuine woman who has gone into this company. It's called Deep Brain AI, really worth looking at. Deep Brain AI brings a person in, they rotate them with 360-degree cameras and they make a deep fake of them. They then ask them to say 300 words, and they can then make them, in their own voice, say anything they want. The technology works so well that in Korea, they have replaced the newscasters with this technology. I think people have realised it has a little bit of the uncanny valley about it, but it's really, really close. Now, what I think is really exciting is, at the moment, you walk into a fast food store like this, and you would have the thing on the right? Which cheeseburger do you want, etc. If you have a unique identifier, maybe through your handprint, your thumbprint, or just your credit card, or however you're doing there, you can make an avatar that resonates with you individually. And it might be different to the one that resonates with you, Rich. It'll be different to the one that resonates with you, Mark, and certainly the one that resonates with me. So you can have your own avatar in your own style. And also, because you've taught it to respond in any way you want, if you integrate that with ChatGPT, you could have an environment whereby you ask it a question and it gives you a genuine response in a human voice. So I genuinely think this is going to be an interesting thing. I think it won't just be in store, I think it'll be online, and I think we'll see a lot more of it. But do have a look, Deep Brain AI, really, really good. Or will be down a route where staff are augmented with better insights. So back in the good old days, you'd go into a fashion store and the person who runs that fashion store would have a little black book. Oh, I'm really not good on time, am I? I really misinterpreted whether I was good on time. I'm going to speed up. Would have a little black book and then remember everything about your shopping history. Why don't we have a digital version of that? With all the data about what you've shopped online, why is that not there? Why is there not a digital customer record? This is an example of some work we did with a retailer on looking at the sentiment analysis based on their Instagram feed. The machine learning, you can just buy it off the shelf. It's really simple. There's loads of open source stuff there that can get you going. There is no reason why we can't augment our staff with better insights. So Starbucks likewise are doing that. With the headsets, they provide additional information for the staff, the baristas, to provide better service. I think we'll see a lot more augmentation. Or potentially, in the long run, tech will become Big Brother. So this is an example of using, for a call center staff, for example, emotion tracking to look at whether someone's engaged. In this case, John's not particularly excited by the conversation that's going on. But for a highly regulated environment, this could be really important. If you've got to ensure compliance, at the moment the tech would enable you to listen to the conversation and confirm whether or not you have confirmed eligibility for a certain product. So maybe the tech will go down that route, I don't know. But what can you do now with workforce analytics? Well, next best action, effectively. Like, we all know that retail stores you go into, they're only really as good as the manager. And sometimes you get some really good managers, but often you get some really bad managers. So there's technologies like this from Corso that sit out there. So Corso, Q-U-R-S-O, that sit out there. And by the way, I'm not paid to say these names. These are genuinely just good things that I think they're in the market. But that provide intelligent next best action. So what it does is effectively the job of the manager. It takes in events data, labor data, sales data, KPIs, and it effectively prioritizes the work. And I think for me, this is the really exciting next stage of retail, is I think not whatever can be automated should be automated, but if there's really unskilled work that humans are bad at doing and it's really, really repetitive, like scanning for gaps on shelves, you should really look to see what technology exists to help move it along. I think this is a really good one. If you wanted to then build in-house, low code has now got to a point whereby for workforce-facing applications, if you use Power Apps or Power Portal or Power Automate, or you combine them all together, you can do things really quickly. So this is an example of Caboodle that we built for the Co-op in partnership with Microsoft, which was a challenge where they said, we currently only redistribute 20% of our waste food at the end of the day. We have a system, but it doesn't work. Can you build something quickly that will connect us with all the charity partners who want to come and pick up waste food from us at the end of the day? In 22 weeks, because we leveraged low code, a little bit of React, more React than we actually wanted, so that it looked a bit nice, but there we go. We went from idea to this being rolled out into 2,600 Co-op stores. That would never have happened if you did a full code build. So low code, really exciting. It definitely has its limitations. If anyone wants to talk about it, people can talk about it much more knowledgeably than I can. But a really exciting way, if you don't really need the application to look brilliant, you can build things really, really quickly and leverage the data first. I'm getting eyes, so I'm going to speak faster. I'm not going to talk about intelligent labor planning. I'm talking about algorithmic retailing, and I'm going to stop talking. So, in the future, we've all had this problem, right? When a supermarket will substitute a product and they give you the wrong product. And historically, having worked with dunnhumby, the way they do that is they look at the product category. So they go, it's an avocado, therefore it's a fruit. Fruit, right? Not a vegetable, fruit. So I'll substitute it with another fruit. Well, that might not work. But really what I think in the future is going to happen is we'll end up with contextual deep learning substitutions. So what will they look at is they'll not just say, oh, it's an avocado, it's a fruit. It'll say it's an avocado and the person's bought tortilla wraps and they've bought salsa and they've bought chicken. Oh, they're probably making tortillas, so I should substitute it for guacamole instead because that's the need that it's serving. Or if they were buying various other things that would go in a big vegetable dish, maybe you'd substitute it for an aubergine. So I think that would be quite an interesting one to watch. This is really the big one. So what we've heard is that there is tests going on in the market at the moment of taking algorithmic retailing to its end state, which is effectively retailers just sending you stuff. So they just send you things. They don't ask, they send you stuff. And at the moment, from what we've heard, there is a 40% success rate, as in you would return 60%. If I just started sending you, Rich, stuff in the mail, and I have enough data, you would only send me back 60% of what you received. Once that gets over a 50% threshold, that could completely change the way retail works. So only something we've heard of a little bit, really scary thought, that eventually the algorithms will take over. But we've seen what's happened with the algorithms on Instagram and TikTok and all of those. They take over how we shop as well and how we find new content. So what can you do about this now that people are scared? We know that data is siloed, so don't worry, this isn't really that. For most people, we're not there yet. Data's a bit too siloed to work on it, so you have to pick an individual part. But if you work in focused areas, like working on search, we know that the algorithms are really, really powerful. And my favorite one that I've seen is this one from a business called Nibble. Because everyone loves a haggle, right? But you can't really haggle online. It's not really possible to say it. Well, you can with Nibble. So what this does is it enables you to recreate effectively an in-store experience online. You go in and effectively you bargain with a chat bot. And you say, I'd like it. And by the way, if it's £100 for the thing and you say I'd like to buy it for 10p, they're quite rude back. So you get quite a genuine response. But I guess this is what's quite exciting, is about how can you nudge each thing using algorithms to be a bit further on. So just to sum up, leverage the existing vision data that you've got if you want to do computer vision and focus on high ROI use cases and use simple algorithms. I genuinely recommend looking at anomaly detection. It's really exciting. Skip large-scale sensor fusion because it's too expensive. But look at things like predictive maintenance. How can you reduce down those things that are just costing you money? VR, AR, and MR are just really fancy versions of a QR code. But they can make you happy if they're done right. There are loads of workforce analytics things you can use, or you can build it fast yourself in low code. And algorithmic retailing is exciting, but quite complex and quite risky. There are a lot of other things you can get started on now.